thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you and to have this experience. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's a privilege to do this and to inspire people and to be given an opportunity to share what we're passionate about and hopefully inspire some positive growth in the people that are listening. So thank you so much for having me here.
That's been the nicest intro for any of my episodes. No, thank you. And, you know, we've had the conversation before on how I want to spin this episode, but with you, I think we don't have to. I think there's enough to be said, and we can go off the notes and whatnot, but I think more of a free-flowing conversation with you will be suffice for this episode. So first of all, I want to start off with you and who you are, what you've been through, and I think to give a bit of context and backstory into I think just for the audience, how we met. So if you want to take it away, and even if you want to give Connor, your husband, a shout out and make the connection there, and I hope he listens to this as well.
Okay, amazing. So I guess we'll start with how we met, which was really recently, and we were at a running event, a 24-hour running event, and I was there to support and crew Connor, who some of the listeners will know on Strava. And I guess I didn't really know what I was in for. And one of the best experiences of the day, of course, in supporting Connor and his passion and his journey, was meeting the running community and specifically you. So
Thank you very much.
you have a beautiful energy and a wonderful presence, and we just clicked instantly. And conversations that I normally reserve for people in my inner circle, we were just having those conversations and being lit up.
Like I'm talking like 5 minutes into meeting one another, and that's you even said that was the last place you expected to have that conversation. And it was like as soon as I met you, it was just deep off the bat. It was like, okay, she gets it, we get it. Not even 5 minutes in, we're having like the conversations you have at 2 a.m. looking up at the stars with your partner, and you know. So yeah, I'm stoked. Thank you, and yeah, I'm happy with this. So
amazing. So I'm definitely excited to be involved in the running community more when I meet like-minded people like you. But for those of you that aren't familiar with me, my name's Holly Winter and I'm 41 years young. I grew up in Tasmania and I live now here on the Gold Coast with my really, really handsome running husband, Connor, and my two children, Poppi, who's 16, and Aiden, who's 11. And the three of them are the light of my life. And I am a women's empowerment coach and the creator of Live in Your Light. And I teach people how to live holistically, heart, mind, body and spirit. So to encompass all of those things, to live their best, brightest life. And I try to model that through heart-centered, intentional living and optimistic positivity, intentional living to inspire everyone around me. So,
and I think this is a perfect setup or segue to, you know, your past and what you've been through, because what you do now and who you are now never used to be. And if you want to take us back, and again, we spoke about this, we don't have to touch on the nitty-gritty info and whatnot, but I think it will help paint that picture for the audience, and I think to show them that you can change from your darkest days, and you, unless, you know, you've got to put in the work, of course, but I think it paints a great picture of what you don't have to deal with what you're dealing with at the time being. You can grow. You can grow with what you've done as well. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to paint that.
Thank you. So I guess though, if we it's such an interesting journey, and there's so many layers to it as there is in everyone's self-awareness journey. But now that I'm at the age that I am, and I can really look back and connect all the dots. So when I was a little girl, I was, very vibrant, really this sunflower energy, really happy little girl. I always wanted to be leading. So if there was school plays and things like that, I always wanted, the good roles, and debating and school council and class captain and all those things. I always wanted to be leading, and I always wanted to use my voice. And I think it's really interesting, and I'm so grateful when we do podcasts, because all of my school reports said, Holly talks too much. So here we go. We make a living out of it. But I've always had that vibrancy and that inner knowing that I was destined to do something really, really special. And I had the capacity that I just wanted to help other people. I just wanted to inspire and empower other people. But on the flip side of that, I also grew up in a family dynamic where I would walk on eggshells, and by being a really good little girl, I could control the outcome of certain situations, and I could shapeshift into being whatever I needed to be in that moment. And so with that came a lot of people pleasing, and a lot of putting my needs at the bottom. So making sure that everybody else around me was okay. And I was also a little girl that I've always loved love. I just love love. And for as long as I can remember, I've been searching for love, but outside of myself. So I actually had this really funny conversation in the group of women that I coach, and I was saying, oh my goodness, I never actually had like an interview process for boyfriends. It was like, if you liked me, that's amazing. I like you back. Like, I thought that that's how it went. I just thought that love was outside of me. So when you look at a young woman who's a chronic people pleaser.
For the audience, like how from a very young age you knew you loved love. But how old are we talking now?
Well, we're looking at teenage years now, where we start to realise that we can have young relationships and aware that, people might want to spend time with us and make us feel a certain way, like give us that love that we're looking for, that attention, that validation. So that became a pattern. And that also led to wrong choices and learning from experience. But I guess what ultimately happened was, through living like that and being a people pleaser and a shapeshifter and thinking that love was to be won or earned, I ultimately married the wrong person. And I know we had a little conversation about this. I'm so much more mindful now because I've spent so much time healing and on my growth. I'm really mindful of how much of that story I share, because there was two people in that marriage and you've only got one person in the chair. And in that marriage, there's children connected and in-laws and brother and sister-in-laws. So it's this really big family and lots of people involved. But for the audiences to understand from where I've been to where I am now, I will share that within this marriage, I was very frightened. I became a person that I couldn't work because I couldn't rely on things working out at home while I was at work. I couldn't answer my phone because of anxiety. The shape-shifting got bigger, louder. I didn't have a lot of friendships because there was so much shame around what I was experiencing and I didn't want other people to know. And, my health suffered. I basically became a shell of a person. And there was a stage where I went to a local Centrelink office and said, what are my options? How do I remove myself from this situation? Like where could I live? What could, how does that look? And they're like, there's nothing really we can do for you. There's various women's shelters if you want to pack up your children and go there, but that wasn't an option for me. And I think with some of the things we're going to discuss, this story will be really beautiful for you. Because of how I'd been living within this marriage, my self-worth was so low that I didn't know that I was worthy enough to make a change for myself because I'd been made to believe those things, and then I wouldn't be capable of doing that. But there was this tiny spark still inside of me for my children. And I thought, Holly, you mightn't think that you're worthy of more, but your children are. And there was this particular day and things had turned really, really pear-shaped, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was in the school car park. It was pickup time, and I was crying, and I was watching this vlog. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't know what to do. And I was watching this vlog of Gabby Bernstein. Have you heard of her?
I haven't.
We can pop the link in the show notes, but she's a spiritual teacher. And she was sharing how you ask for your sign from the universe. And I'm watching this vlog and I'm crying, and I didn't know how to tell what my sign was. And her sign is an owl. So I followed her instructions and I said, dear universe, please show me an owl if I'm meant to leave this marriage. And I, was crying. Children got in the car. I drove home that whole way looking for an owl, right? Anyway, I got home and the ironing board was in like the common living area, and I went to move the things off the ironing board to put the school bags on, and there was this tiny little girl's singlet with an owl on it, and my children weren't babies, and I was like, no, how does that even happen? And then I moved over and started clearing the kitchen counter ready to prep dinner, and the school year had just gone back, so my daughter had come home with her new books and the new homework books, and the first book that I moved off the counter was covered in owls.
Synchronicity.
And I went, okay, we're going to do this. So, basically that was the crumbling of the life that I knew and the life that I had built on what society tells us is important. So I had a really big, beautiful home, luxury cars, great schools for the kids. It all looked really good, but what was going on the
empty
on the inside wasn't. And I want to also make note that I set that marriage up for failure because I was the one that was pretending to be something, to obtain those things that I thought were so important. So without $1 in my pocket, the children and I started again. And I think this is really where this work really started, because I had people telling me that I needed to be on antidepressants and that I needed to get lawyers, and I was being shown a way that didn't align with me. And I was like, I can do this. Like, yes, I'm heartbroken, and yes, I'm at the bottom and I have to rebuild, but I can do this with resilience and grit and grace and positivity. This doesn't have to be.
But my question for you is, where does that come from? That sort of leaning into, you've had this lavish lifestyle, you're not working, you've got the nice things and whatnot. But how do I say it? You weren't always leaning into the unknown, leaning into that spiritual side of things. Where does that come from? because I think we all, I really do think that, the guys here, you, me, we've all got that spark of the what if, what if, and what I mean by that is the unknown, like the spiritual. When I say spiritual, I don't mean the woo-woo sort of. Well, I guess it's all woo-woo. But where does that stem from with you?
Well, I think like when I look back, it's always been there. Like it's always been there. I remember, I think it was about year 8, and I was on the student council and I had to deliver this speech to the whole school. And high school's like terrifying. And I really vividly remember visualizing that experience being a success. Like I was rehearsing the speech and I was visualizing being on stage in front of all these students and really like crushing it. And then I really lent into that personal development phase and spirituality around 20. And I actually studied life coaching around that time in my life as well. And I also learnt the power of visualization, manifestation. It was when The Secret was out. You're probably too young.
No, I remember The Secret.
Do you remember? Yeah. So it was around that stage. So it had really, it had always been there, and I was always using affirmations and things like this. So it had always been there. I think when we go through adversity, and I do believe all of us do, some people learn through a physical disability. It could be through financial hardship. It could be through grief. But I really do believe we all have those times in our lives. And for me, obviously my children have always been my anchor, and that they deserve the world. And I always knew I've got that bit of a fight in me when someone tells me that I'm nothing. I'm going to show you that I'm everything.
That's nice. That's that's beautiful. Yeah.
And I needed something because there was nobody around me modeling what I needed in that moment, which was positivity, empowerment, being uplifted, being inspired. How are you going to make a comeback? Let's go through the steps. Let's find a house. Let's find a job. Let's get you sorted. I had no one empowering me. And so I had to really lean into the spirituality. I had to believe in something.
I think it's the belief side of things that we need to lean into.
Yeah. I had to believe, well, I've been carried this far. Surely I can get over the line to the next stage.
It's just touching on the spirituality side of things. We had that conversation a while back to look for ladybugs. And guess what popped up today?
Oh, you're joking.
And it was won't touch on it too much, but for the audience today, found out some news that on the other side of the family commit suicide last night. And for me, I knew the person, I knew the family-ish to a certain extent. Anyway, that's not a part of this podcast. But we spoke about finding that sign, and we, you said for me, mine was a lady beetle, ladybug. And as soon as it rocked up, as soon as it was in front of me, I went, Holly, what? And out of, I haven't seen one since. I haven't seen one since we had the conversation, and it pops up today. And I sat there and I went, focus on how I'm feeling at the time. That was my sign. And what it was to help people. That's the feeling because I just sent the message to this person in particular who's close to that person, and it was leaning into that unknown. It was just synchronicity, and I think when you have to believe in it to embody it.
100%.
And I saw it and I went, this is my sign to continue on, and we to touch. For me, it's still a bit woo woo, like. The angel numbers. I keep seeing the 11s today. I think on 4 different occasions, 11, or anything following it with the number 11. And it pops up, and, we spoke about it. And I think it's, leaning into that, into it, because 11 apparently is a master number, and it's, lean into your intuition, your gut feeling, and follow that. And it brings me back to this podcast. It brings me back to, just, I'm so early. I'm 26, and that's why, when we have the conversations like this, it's freeing. It's freeing to be able to express myself like this, and with the guys here and with you and all the guests that I have on here. So yeah, I think it's a believing sort of thing that you've. Again, I got so many words in my head. I just want to articulate it better. I think it comes back down to belief. But my question to you now is for the person that wants, the person that's on the fence, that's going, I've been told a certain set of rules and values by my family. How do you break that mold? How do you, or for the member of the audience, how do they break that? How do they, take that step into looking into the unknown, looking into that spiritual side of things?
Well, it's challenging, right? It's challenging.
We're told it's a load of shit.
But that's the thing when we start to elevate our consciousness, is it's unlearning and deprogramming everything we've been taught. And when someone comes to me and they say, oh, Holly, like, you're woo-woo, and I go, that's okay. But take a look at my life. At 33 years of age, 33, 34, I had nothing and was a shell of a person. Couldn't answer my phone, remember? Didn't have a job, didn't have anywhere to live, had these two beautiful children. I have rebuilt my life. I am happy. I am healthy. I am in love. I have healthy children. I'm abundant. I work for myself with purpose and passion. I have great people around me, a great community, a great support system. And that has been created or co-created all off the back of this work. So I say the proof's in the pudding, and just start to explore it. Start by getting in tune with your intuition, because every single person listening to this podcast can think of a moment where they did or didn't listen to their gut, heart, soul, and it ended differently for them than they wanted. They go, oh, I should have listened to my intuition. So I guess it's starting there, and then it becomes this real journey of self-discovery, self-awareness, and following the clues. So for me, it began really immersing myself in this spiritual space and exploring all different modalities. So at the end of that marriage, obviously I needed to do a lot of work on myself, because there's a pattern of this young woman that's making bad choices just by wanting to be loved, wanting to be accepted. So I saw holistic psychologists, spiritual psychologists. I went a little bit left field with that. And then I started working with energy healers to remove traumas and blocks and things like that in my body. I started studying astrology and looking at my birth chart, numerology, looking at my numerology, and all these modalities, all this information, my dharma, it all pointed me to what I'd already thought when I was a little girl, and that I was destined to help people use my voice and things like that. So I think once you get that confirmation each time with the spirituality, it just gets stronger. Your belief gets stronger, and you keep going, you keep finding the clues.
It's just, yeah, like for me, and same with you, growing up, I've always dabbled. That's the word I'm going to use for this. I've always had some, I'd say at about 16, 17, I had a full-blown spiritual awakening, and then something happened where I just blocked it out because at the time it didn't align with me. And I think now it's starting to align again as I have these conversations and go deeper on myself. But I've always, as you see, nearly identical to you, I've always had the knowing of the unknown, but again, it's like a part of me that says I don't want to believe in that. And I'm still in the transition phase of leaning into the angel numbers and the numerology and that, but it hasn't stuck yet. And what sticks will stick, and what doesn't won't. So at the moment, I truly believe I'm just not ready for that yet, to take that step just yet. But I know one day I'm going to be the best person I can be. Now, to pivot this and change gears a bit, what I wanted to talk to you about is, a main theme that I see with you, with your social media and who you are, and what we just spoke about today so far, is love. Now, to you, what is your definition of love? I don't want the definition that what you read from or watch from a movie. What's Holly's definition of love?
That's such a beautiful question. Love is everything. Right? It's what it's all about. The love we have for ourselves, the love we have for our friends and our family, our partners, our children, our communities, the world, Mother Earth. Like, love is everything. And I love celebrating love. I love learning about love. I love sharing love. And I just love going deeper with it all the time. But it's all that matters. It's everything.
That's beautiful. Now, now this is where I wanted to bring this. You had a rough past relationship, and now you've found the man of your dreams, Connor. So if you want to take us through, the process of, that self-worth. You didn't have self-worth. You were really down and out on yourself, and you start creating this life, manifesting love, manifesting what you are now. And how does this guy come into your life? How does that all work? Like, because I see, when I saw you guys at that race, I witnessed firsthand, and I guess from the outside looking in, a perfect relationship. I just saw it. Yep. And I saw how you guys interact. I saw how much respect he had for you. And not in the sense of, he was trying to be a man's man and go, yeah, that's my woman. I saw how he looked at you. I saw everything that he did for you because he loved you, and vice versa. Yeah. And you coming and showing your support for him to do this 24-hour race. And, that was beautiful in itself. So what's the arc from, that, again, it all ties in with the self-worth, love. You come from a not so good relationship, and then you find this gem. Where's that arc? Like, what's going through your mind when you finally find this?
So amazing. And what I love about sharing this story is it gives hope to so many people that might be staying in relationships because they think that that's the way it is and that's their only option, or they might think that they're past their time, and there is no time. There's, when it's meant for you, when you know what you're looking for, and when you believe you're truly deserving of that, it will happen. But thank you for the beautiful things you said. And Connor and I are both really, really proud of the love that we have for each other and our relationship. And I'd like to start by saying that he is unequivocally the best human being that I know. So I feel grateful, and I actually I
hit it off with him straight away. Like that was the first time we met at that race, and again, it was like us. We've always bantered on social media and whatnot. And I finally met him, and we were still on that level. Yeah. And we never dropped. And there's always going to be that there, which is, I find awesome with that.
He's so authentic. He's amazing. But how we met is just the most beautiful story. So I had been on my own recovering from the marriage for almost 2 years. And my focus was, A, the children, B, rebuilding our lives, how that looked on every level, working on my career, because I had to be earning an income while I was still building Live in Your Light at this stage. And rebuilding me. Right, that's a big process to pull that all apart and to rebuild it. And it was exciting though too, because when you are going through those transitions, you do get to rebuild your life exactly how you want it to look. You get really clear on, okay, this is what we're going to do going forward. So I was a really busy solo mum. And we lived, when we first were on our own, I rented an apartment, and my plan was to stay in this apartment until I could afford my own home. Anyway, under the strangest of circumstances and the universe, of course, there was an explosion in the basement of the apartment block where I lived, and the building was deemed unsafe, and we had 12 hours to move out, as you do. And it's not always easy as a solo mum to secure a rental property. So the real estate helped me out, and there was some new townhouses that had just been built down the road. I was not thrilled about moving into this new location, but I didn't have an option. So we moved in, and it was an automatic garage. So every day I'd knock off work, bring the children home. We'd drive through the automatic garage down. Didn't see anybody. So I had neighbours. It was a driveway through the middle. So there was neighbours, townhouses down either side. Didn't see anybody. Anyway, this one night I had just had a shower after work. So, cleansed the makeup off, wet hair, wearing my comfiest pajamas, the ugliest ones, that's what I mean. And I'm lying on my couch watching Suits. Yes, I'm a big Meghan Markle fan. And I'm watching Suits, and this mouse runs from under my TV cabinet and launches itself onto the couch next to me and buries itself under the cushions. So I start crying hysterically, a couple of screams. I did not even know I was afraid of mice. Poppi comes running down the stairs to see what all the commotion is. So we ring my mum, and she was absolutely no help at all. Tried to tell me that the mouse would be long gone and wouldn't come and help me. And I just remember being furious that she wouldn't come help. So I said to Poppi, who's 11, so shy, Poppi, just go get someone, go get anyone. I do not care.
Okay.
I do not care. Just go get someone. So the poor kid, like the last thing she wants to do is go door knock neighbours. She's shy. So off she goes. I keep my eye on the couch because I don't want this mouse running around my house. 5 minutes later, she comes back
With Connor.
with this dark-haired, 6-foot guy who takes off his shoes at the front door, walks on in. And Ken, I kid you not, this was my thought process. He just took off his shoes. That's really polite. Oh, wow, he's really good looking. I can't believe I don't have a bra on. I can't understand anything he just said. This is English. And then my soul honestly went, oh, you're here.
Oh.
And I, as a solo mum, I didn't have a lot of mouse catching apparatus. So he chased the mouse around the house with a colander, like a lettuce colander, and he didn't catch it, but
He was there.
Yeah, the rest is history. So I Connor just dies, but I love telling the story.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I had
It's
no
good,
idea.
right?
I thought it was just like I met him at the bar.
Yeah.
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 Connor's
Yeah.
probably going to listen to this and go, ew.
She's told the mouse story again. But I love it. And then off the back of that, there was still a lot of self-worth healing to go through.
Now, this is something, again, to shift it towards that healing. We see on social media about healing, and you see these people making the reels and whatnot. And what I try to tell, I get a few messages and how did I overcome depression? How did I overcome my mental health issues? And I tell them, I haven't yet. It is healing is continuous and forever, and you've always got to keep your sword sharp. And it brings me back to that theme of social media. And when you're in the healing process, when you're there, it fucking sucks. Like, we romanticize about it, and you read the book and you go, oh, they got through that, piss easy. It was a very linear path, and to paint to get that perspective from you, that it was up and down, up and down. You're a single mum, 2 kids. So when it comes to healing, and for the audience, what or how? I guess healing is subjective to the person. Whatever works for them works for them. But as hard as it is, what are your to help the audience? What is your way, or what is something you want to say to help that healing process when it comes from any trauma, anything that's happened that someone's gone through?
It's exactly like you said, and it's never ending. There's always another layer. And, I present now as someone that's really confident and self-assured, I guess, and it maybe all looks beautiful and all these things. But I recently shared where we live, we have a guy that comes around and mows everyone's lawns, and Connor mows our lawns for us. But the gentleman needs access through our backyard to get to the neighbour's house. And he shows up unannounced. And where we live, if you want to come visit us, you have to buzz and we let you in, and I know you're coming, and you knock at the front door. And this one day the guy came to mow the lawns, and I didn't know he was coming. So I just heard a man and then someone going down the side of my house. And I literally ran and hid in my stairwell, like without realising. This is probably 6 months ago. And I went, oh, we've still got a big problem here. So it doesn't, the work is always there. You get much better at identifying when you need to dig a little bit deeper, when you need to practice more self-care. And when you're triggered, obviously that is a clue that you need to still do some work there. But for me, it's all encompassing. It's looking at mind, body, and spirit, heart. So, when we're physically unwell, like if you, what was your injury? Your knee?
I tell you what, so I've had this conversation. I've been out of alignment, and that is why these things have happened. The sickness, the universe said you need to slow down and get the fuck in line with your values and who you are. So here's an injury. Here's a horrible, like the flu I had recently was debilitating. I was in bed for 7 days. So out of the 7, I was in bed for 4. Didn't move, didn't do anything. So luckily I have a beautiful partner that took care of me. But the injury is the one that was crippling me. So I've got an ITB issue. I just can't run. So I've been doing the work, but we had this conversation just before the episode. When it comes to healing, it's like it's a metaphor for how my life is. I need to heal, and since the DNF from that 100-miler, I've been so out of touch with myself. I've just been so focused on the running. I haven't kept my sword sharp. I've just let life walk all over me. What does it do? Whoever's up there, my guardian angel goes, you need to come back down. Here's an injury. You need to sit with yourself, because running ended up turning into running away from my
stuff,
everything. I was running away from everything.
Yeah.
So here's an injury. You have to deal with that now.
And so, the beauty of that is when it presents in our body, it's very easy for us to feel it, identify it. Other people can see it. Oh, you're injured. Okay. And so you're going to tend to that, right? You've got the flu, you're going to see the doctor or take some paracetamol, rest. So it's also, this healing journey is about taking the time every day to check in with yourself first, and check like your body, but your heart, your mind, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. And you have to keep showing up for those things. So yes, see a doctor for your knee, see a psychologist for your mental health, see some energy healers for your soul work, or personal development spaces. Like, we've got to be ticking all the boxes, because it's all encompassing. We've got to do the work in every area of our life, or we can see where we fall short.
Yeah, and then that's exactly it. But this is another thing that comes up. Who the fuck wants to do the work? Because it's a lot. It really is a lot. And, you know, to 2022, everyone's busy doing nothing. Everyone's busy as such. And, you know, who has the time to do that? And it's like, with how things are going, we haven't caught a bloody break.
I know. It's been a lot. I'll tell you something really funny. So, like, if you were to call me at 7 o'clock at night, well, I won't answer my phone, but if you message me, if you Instagram me at 7 o'clock at night, I will be watching something on Netflix. At the moment, it's Stranger Things, which is a huge accomplishment because it sends my nervous system into overdrive. And Connor will always say, oh, I want to watch something motivational, or, you know, let's watch something spiritual. But because I've been doing the work all day, I just want to tap out for a little while. So I get that it is hard, but once you've started the journey, there's no looking back. And the alternative is not attractive at all. You want to keep doing the work, keep bettering yourself, keep becoming more aware of the great things about you and the shadow things about you that you need to heal and integrate. Now,
again, with your line of work, now you said, you know, to de-stress, Stranger Things. You know. My question for you now is, do you ever get those vulnerability hangovers? You know, like you've just worked with a client and they've just dumped their life story on you and it's heavy. How do you personally get through that?
So this whole journey has taught me that I need to be good with myself first and foremost, always. And that's knowing who I am, knowing what my values are, living in alignment with those values. And I can only hold you or my clients or the community at the capacity that I can hold myself. So I've created this practice ritual that I do every single day that supports me so that I can stand tall and strong. And it's a strong aura. So there's no leaks in my aura. So these things can't, although I'm so empathetic and I will go out of my way to help anybody that, you know, that's the job, that's what I want to be doing, I don't take it on anymore. And I'm very wary of the moments that I do start to, and I have to pull back and go and then work on my strength, resilience, how I hold myself. And it's an awareness, you know.
Yeah, I when I first started the podcast, I really didn't know how to pull away. I was, you could say, an empath as such, or whatever you want to call it. Very empathic, and for me to interview someone and talk to someone, I have to physically be in their shoes to understand where they're at, where they've come from. A perfect example for this, you know, I had a girl, Danielle Britz, come on, talked about, you know, she lost both her parents in a very short amount of time, in the healing process, and, you know, suicidal tendencies. And for me to understand that story, I went back to my story and then I went over to hers, and I was there with her on the, you know, going to the roof on the verge of suicide. And I finished the episode and it was great, amazing to do that with a friend. But then afterwards, I felt so heavy. I felt I didn't let go of that. I was still there, and it's taken time, and it's taken, you know, actual therapy to get through that, because I had no idea how to disconnect or disassociate. I don't want to say disassociate, but disconnect from what we did, because it was heavy. It was a very heavy conversation, and yeah, to be there. And I think over time I've started to learn how to disassociate from from being so connected to that story.
Yeah. And it comes with holding beautiful heart space for people, like that's a given. And it's finding what works for you to protect yourself, ground yourself, recharge and recenter yourself. So For me, at the end of the day, it's always a shower with lavender essential oil. So that's a really good one to clean up your energy and reset. We've talked about before nature. Like nature just has to be a part of your self-care practices because that's the quickest way to bring you back. And also just knowing it. So there was a stage last year where I was doing lots of events and it was these group settings where we would be holding space and talking about all these kind of things and learning about spirituality and things they can do. And I love doing that. But it was, holding a lot of energy for a lot of different people and their experiences. And the next day I would always be wiped out, like completely wiped out. And Connor would go, okay, so we'd pop in the calendar that we don't do anything that day. Like you're not great. And I had to kind of learn, A, how to manage it and hold it, and B, how to recharge quickly. Like how do I bring myself quickly? So, it's a beautiful thing that you empathize and you hold that for people. But yeah, being able to look after yourself.
And during the past, I was going to make a video about it tomorrow. I can say it now. Past 3 months for me personally, I can say it, it's been horrible. I've been in a fucking hole. I really, really have. If I was in this hole 2-3 years ago, completely different story. I wouldn't know how to deal with it. But because of the work I'm doing, I can have the stoic, ideology with my knee and go, just get on with it, and stoicism and be a man and do something else, like David Goggins-esque sort of thing. But that's not me, and that's not what it should be. The injury as such has been the crux of my whole. Like it really has put me in this place where I don't want to do the work, but I have to be present with myself. And the injury, I can't go out in nature. Well, I can go out in nature, but I want to run. I want to be free. I want to trail run. But since I haven't been able to do that, it's just put me in my place. It's really put me in my place. And, as much as I got to practice what I preach, but sometimes I just don't want to. I don't want to have that stoic, energy about it. Sometimes I just want to be an emotional mess and be a little baby and go, I don't want to do this,
And, that's okay. And there's a place for that too, to sit in our emotions so that we don't bypass all of them. Like
feel to heal.
Yeah, you've got to, there is time. I know from personal experience that many, many years ago, if I was triggered and something would happen and I could be down and out for days, like this mood for days. Whereas now I can recognize, okay, that's triggered you. You don't feel great. Have your little sulk. Now let's get your tools out and work through it. And I guess in the situation when there's an injury and you can't run in nature, which would normally be your go-to, it's looking at all the other things that you can do that bring you back.
And who made the rule that you're not allowed to have a little cry? I was kicking myself and I'm going, I'm being, quotation, being a little bitch. I'm like, no, I'm fucking allowed to be a little bitch. I'm allowed to feel this emotion. I'm allowed to be sad. Who said, again, brings it back to social media. Got, David Goggins, your Cameron Haynes, be a man, get up at 4:30. It's like, no, I don't want to. I want to cry and I want to be warm in bed and be a little bitch, and that's okay. So, but there's all these rules and stuff and I get caught up, and again, it's that practice what you preach.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. I'm me.
And it's also too, like, there's something that I'm teaching the group that I'm working with at the moment, and that, people might look to me for guidance or inspiration or tips and tools and techniques, and I can only share what has worked for me and what I believe in. But we are all our own best healers, right? So if your body is saying you need a lion today and a little cry and a hot water bottle, like, that's okay. And maybe tomorrow your body will tell you, right, I want to get out and move. So be really discerning where you source your inspiration from.
Yeah.
Make sure it aligns with you.
And that's why I've taken
through.
A massive step back from it. I really, when I catch myself doing the mindless scroll, that's when I know, go see the kids or just do something other than that.
Yeah, create, don't consume.
How are we going for time? Yeah, cool. So to land this, to bring it back down to, I feel good. I just like when we have I love having these conversations because, I love doing these episodes because it's in a way it's selfish. It's for me as well to be able to talk like this and let it all out. Like it's good. I love it.
We could literally talk all day.
We
could talk all day. And I just really hope that, the people that tune in, what's meant for them will land. And it might be one sentence. It might be one thing that we've touched on that really unlocks something in someone. So for that, I'm really grateful. But I hope that we've been able to bring it to really what it needs to be. But I guess my message is really just to live in your light, like to live a purposeful, positive, joyous, abundant, magical, love-filled experience, and that's possible.
It definitely it is, and you are like literally living proof of it. And I can't wait to introduce you to my partner.
Yeah,
because when I'm with my partner all day, it's like, oh, get fucked, Kent. But I think it's, I want to introduce you to, and this is a perfect platform to do that because of who you are and what you're doing. Now, again, beautiful message. Now to the person who is going through, a hard relationship or in that, rut, that life rut, to the single mum, to the single dad, to the teenager that wants to, break free of what society has said that you're supposed to be. What is your message to them? What is that something, that tangible something that they can go, okay?
To honor yourself and honor your soul. So get really clear about exactly who you are, what lights you up, everything that you're about, and go create a life around that. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And the tone and, and I think that's perfect. I think that's a really perfect way to round this hour out.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. It is a bit of a drive, I know.
It's a joy.
But also for these guys to be a part of it, for to be a part of all of this. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to talk with people like yourself and to hold space like this. Again, this is a massive change for me for who I used to be. I used to find these sort of conversations at the end of a bottle at 2:00 in the morning. And now I'm doing it on a Friday, 2 p.m. with such an amazing lady like yourself. So thank you so much. I'm just so grateful.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. The pleasure's mine. It's a joy.
Peace.